So good morning, everyone. Today's Monday, July 27th, 2020. The time is 11:04 a.m. This is our weekly commissioner status update. We do this on a weekly basis, so all three of us are essentially on the same page as to what's going on in the progress. And so attending our commissioners Duncan, Brooks, and Filios. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
I can suggest a few of them.
Please.
On number 6, to remove the executive session, it's improperly noticed with the public defender on there.
Thank you.
And then I would also recommend that after item number 1, that items 6 and 7 be handled next.
Okay. We can do that. Okay. So we'll take up item number 1 first. It should be fast. I don't anticipate this will go more than 5 minutes. Then we'll take up items 6 and 7. Public comment will be at the end. This is a 1-hour meeting, and so we're going to move very quickly through this so we can get on. Okay. And I'll explain certain things as we go along, especially when we get to the Panhandle Health District topic. Nick, first item, sewer pipe repair for Parks and Waterways, Noxious Weeds Office. Go right ahead, Nick, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. Nick Stein for the record. Thank you. I'll be brief. Commissioners, we have had a restroom in our office closed for the last 2 months. As you might recall, we did a remodel, and after $2,000 worth of investigation to the plumbers, they've determined, or at least suspect, that our vent pipe is leaking, i.e. putting sewer smell throughout our entire office. So it's been a tough 2 months. They believe they found the issue. We won't know till they open the wall, but they believe that our rack that holds all our servers, when that was moved and installed as part of the remodel, one of the lag bolts may have gone through and hit that vent pipe, so they're going to have to open up the wall and make those repairs. To date, we have an expense of $2,073.20 in investigative money by the plumber, and the bid from Darden Construction, who has always been very fair, in the amount of $3,880 to open the walls back up, make the repairs, and get our office back to sanitary.
Okay, wait, excuse me, why isn't this on the contractor?
Well, Commissioner, it's the contractor that did the remodel completed it without issue, we believe. Again, not till we open the wall. And we could be back. That could change. They suspect the plumber, after several tests, one of them was like a pressure leak down test where they pumped smoke through the system. They believe they saw it come out of the vent pipe in the attic. So it is likely at this time, not confirmed, it is likely that the IT contractor, who, by the way, has done a great job for the county, may have just nicked that vent pipe, wouldn't have known it was there. Until we open the wall, we really don't know, to be honest, who's responsible.
Okay. Cost of repair again?
The cost of repair, again, to date, we have expenses in the amount of $2,073.20, which is not in my budget, Commissioners. In addition to that, the proposal to fix it, and I am asking for permission to move forward today with Darden to make those repairs in the amount of $3,880, giving a grand total of $5,953. I'm happy to work with Dina and look at some contingency, but at this time, Commissioners, I'm going to need some assistance probably through the general fund.
Okay, go ahead, Leslie.
Well, I would suggest contingency at this moment, and then when we have a definite cause that we readdress if funding needs to come from somewhere else. But at this point, I would ask that he be able to move forward with contingency money.
Okay.
You want me to second the motion?
Yes, sir, please.
I didn't hear a motion.
Sorry, I move that we approve the sewer pipe repair with Parks and Waterways Noxious Weeds Office in the amount of $6,000 coming from contingency.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan.
Aye.
Chairman Philios.
Aye, and the motion is carried. Okay.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Nick. Okay, so we're going to move on to, if you have a copy of the agenda, item 6, 6 and 7 actually, so this way if you folks want to move on, you're welcome to do so. You're certainly also welcome to sit through the rest of our meeting as you wish. So Panhandle Health District Board representation action. Bill, I guess I'll defer to you on this.
Okay, one of the things that came up after the last Panhandle Health District was who elected, various members. And I did some looking, and nobody elected them. They were appointed at one time, and I would like to see it in the future, and this is not an action item today, but always be somebody who's elected, preferably somebody from the Board of Commissioners, preferably whoever is serving as chair of the board. And then if people want to say, we're going to unelect you or recall you, then we feel like people have some sort of, but right now, there isn't. But we're not going to do that today. And I felt very bad because some people said to me, well, do you agree with the decision? Well, I personally don't agree with the decision. Thank goodness the sheriff has said they're not going to enforce it. The future sheriff said that. So I'm not terribly worried about the implications. If somebody is terribly worried, they should go to the courts and get a judicial review of the matter. So that's all, and I'm sorry that it got around that today was going to be all about a representative, and I never said that. Someone else put a little mustard on it and sent it around, and I got about 125, 30 emails. 70 want a replacement, and the rest of them want to award a Medal of Honor. So what are we going to do here? But I think people in those positions should be responsive to the voters.
Okay.
That's all. So that's all I had to say on number 6.
Fair enough. Leslie, thoughts?
You presented us with this statute. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I can do that. The reason, we had a couple things go on here. Number one, and the reason Commissioner Duncan asked for the removal of the executive session is that it's not noticed properly. It indicates public defender. Well, the public defender never asked that we put it on there, but somehow it got screwed up. Secondly, we do not discuss individuals, and we will never discuss individuals in an open meeting. That's executive session. If it were you or your family member, whatever, you don't want us to play that out in public, folks, and it's not right, okay? And that's the other reason we took it off. But let me say something, because to Bill's point, I don't know how many emails we received, it was about 150 or thereabouts. I'm going to read to you, this is the state code regarding appointments or de-appointments, if you will, to the Panhandle Health District. And I'll give you the reference, so if you want to look it up. It's Title 39, the code is 39-411. So you can look it up on the Idaho website. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's a full page, but I'll read the most relevant sections, okay? Okay, one member of the district board, if available to serve, shall be a physician licensed by the Idaho State Board of Medicine, and no more than one member shall be appointed from any professional or special interest group. All members shall be chosen with due regard to their knowledge and interest in public health and in promoting the health of the citizens of the state and the public health district. Representation shall be assured from rural as well as urban population groups. Now, here's the part that's perhaps even most relevant. Can everybody hear me? Oh, okay. This is paragraph 3, by the way, of the code. All appointments to the district board shall be confirmed by a majority vote of all of the county commissioners of all the counties located within the public health district. Any member of the district board may be removed by majority vote of all the county commissioners of all the counties located within the district. Okay, so we have 5 northern counties that comprise District 1, Panhandle Health District. You know who they are: Benoit, Boundary, Bonner, Shoshone, Kootenai. So if we're to appoint or remove a board member, it takes the vote of 15, the majority vote, of the 15 county commissioners, 3 from each county. This is state law, folks. We don't write these. This is the law as prescribed and voted on and passed by your legislature. And it's probably been in place for some time. I don't know. But that's the situation. So at least this way, we're all on the same page as to what it takes. Leslie, did you want to jump in at this point for anything?
Just the point that I agree with Bill. I think an elected official should be on there. With Bill's background in hospitals and that kind of thing, I'd be comfortable if he wanted to serve there, or if the chairman was willing. The only way that I could serve in that position is if I had something taken off my plate, like Basin Commission or something else that if anybody else had an interest with. But I agree that I think we should move forward into getting an elected person on that board to represent us.
Okay. And I don't know that we need to make that decision today. And even if we were to, as a body, we would still have to present it to the other 4 counties, or 4 county commissioners of the four other counties. So that's the situation, that's the statute, it's 39-411. You can help yourselves, you can look it up. No, it'll have to be toward the end, Bev. I promise, I'll give you an opportunity. Okay, so let's go forward here. The next item, which really relates to this, is item number 7, Panhandle Health District meet on Kootenai County campus discussion. Bill?
I don't like the fact that last Thursday we had a circus out in front. Shh.
We'll give you a chance.
The thing is, Panhandle Health has their own building, and they have a big parking lot, and they can take a few more people. I mean, we can take a few more people in this room than they can, but my goodness, we couldn't get everybody in here. And I felt bad when people were defacing county property and had kids out there, and this is not a carnival. This is serious business. And then when people came into the room, I watched the entire hearing and were screaming, and some of them were screaming obscenities. I'm a conservative, and most of the people who did that were conservative by their own description, and that was embarrassing for me as a conservative. And I would urge people, please, can we be civil? Can we just be civil with each other? Make your point. And they're good points, but make your point, but don't rush the commissioners or whoever was up here. What was it, the representatives of the Panhandle Health Board that were up here? That's not appropriate. So that's all I have to say. I would prefer it be down there, and if there's something that concerns the county commissioners, and welcome to our house, your house, really. But it was inappropriate, in my opinion, to have it down here. That's all.
Leslie?
I want to be welcoming to our other partner agencies, I guess, and this does kind of belong to the public, so not kind of, it does belong to the public. I agree in the fact that it was too big for this to handle, so if they could have handled it somewhere else, Schuler Auditorium or Croxton or something like that, I'd be more in favor of a venue that could have handled that type of participation.
But that wasn't our choice. I mean, they could have picked NIC or,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, what had happened here, though, was that the discussion occurred about a week before the meeting. And so there really wasn't enough time to react and secure another venue. But what we can do, and Nancy and I discussed it, is I can work with Nancy and in turn with Laura Whalen of Panhandle Health to see if we can secure another venue for their next meeting. I suspect the next meeting's not going to be as controversial, but my understanding is there will be a COVID update. So I guess that's on the agenda, so we'll deal with that. The issue here, too, is we disrupt operations. And as fast as this county is growing, people are coming in for driver's license or registrations, and we have a crowd outside, and it gets fairly disruptive. If you want to get an idea how fast we're growing, this gentleman to my left with the mask on, David Callahan, he's our Director of Community Development. Our permits are up 30% year over year. So if anything, COVID has actually accelerated the in-migration to the area, and you've probably read something about that. But that's where we are. We have to try to service the public, and so we'll try and find another venue if possible. Thank you, guys. I'm going to make another little shift here in the agenda because I think we can get through it fairly quickly. I'm going to take item 5, Liaison Response to Communication from the Public. I'll make it brief, and then if you folks, Leslie, Bill, you can jump in. What happens is we get communication from people like we did this time around. And sometimes what will happen, and Nancy will come to us and say, well, who wants to respond? You don't need 3 responses from us. And sometimes it gets to the point where it gets highly inefficient. We run 400 meetings a year. And so what I am suggesting, each one of us is a liaison to a different organization, whether within our own groups or even groups outside, like chambers and whatnot. So whoever owns that topic is the individual to respond. If you don't wish to respond, or for whatever, you need some help, I would say at that point, take it to Nancy. Maybe she can craft a general response that we can use, only so that she's not caught in the middle saying, okay, who's going to respond here? And I think it's more efficient. So if it's waterways, Leslie, sheriff, guess who? Okay, community development, can't get my permit on time, that's me. Okay, so, and so on and so forth. Are you guys in general agreement? Is that okay?
Yeah, I think that's fine. There are some things that come up, though, that are not, like, they belong to all of us. They're not necessarily directed towards a particular liaison.
Right, or things that we might be really divergent on our opinions. And if I'm going this way with this, and Chris or Leslie want to go this way with it, I'll do them the courtesy of talking with them about it.
That's fine.
I mean,
That's
you know,
fine.
communication.
Right. I'm just trying to make the process faster and
No,
more
I
efficient.
agree
Yeah.
with that.
And that's fine. We can consult or, that's not a problem. And we typically do that anyway, in one form or another.
I think one way, because a lot of it comes in through the BOCC channel and not to
Yes.
us directly, if she forwards it to that liaison person, then that person says, you know what,
point.
Bill's passionate about this, I'm going to forward it to him just so he sees my response and that kind of thing, or, you, or,
That works.
yeah.
I'm good.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, before we get on to the audio-visual presentation, because I don't want to cut that short if possible. Where's Dina? Can we get through the CARES funding discussion can we do it in 5 minutes? Jody, how fast can we move? Yeah.
Sure.
Are you okay? Can we get, okay, let's go. So folks, on your agenda, this is item number 4. This is the CARES Act funding. This is money that comes to us from the state, or it actually originates from the federal government through the state to the jurisdictions. Go right ahead.
So the COVID team was asked to fund the audiovisual for this room. And our review of that expense was detailed in an email to the board, basically encouraging a competitive rather than a non-competitive event. And I will be more than happy to address any questions. And I don't know if Dina or Michelle would like to come up as well.
Okay, and what's your reasoning?
Well, the federal funding,
It's all right.
That's okay, it's all right.
the federal funding requires that you 100% of the time do open and fair competition or contracts. Although in the CARES funding, it was exempt, I still think is a best practice in order to ensure that you are providing an open and non-exclusive contract. It's to the betterment of the county and certainly the taxpayer dollars.
Okay,
Was that fast enough?
plenty. Okay, the question that I have is typically if we're under 50 grand, $50,000, the state does not necessarily require that we go out for competitive bid.
That is incorrect.
That is incorrect?
I would say that's incorrect. The state, in their policy and procedure and procurement, definitely says that 3 bids should be arrived at so that you know that you came to a just cost and price without knowing whether or not you do that. If you don't do that, then you have no idea whether or not you got a competitive price. Then that's considered a sole source. And when you have a sole source, you still would want to do an independent analysis of the determination of whether or not the cost was fair and reasonable.
So where does the $50,000 threshold come from?
It's considered whether the type of procurement, so it's a small procurement. It's small, so in a small, you can have informal, and informal bidding then encourages to have 3 bids.
How small, though? I mean, what do we get down to?
Well, I think that, if I'm not mistaken, the state says that 10,000 or less is considered a small or micro from the federal side as well, and then that from 10,000 to 50 would be considered small. I don't quote me on that. I do believe that's the right threshold. I'm not sure whether or not
If it's under 10, you're saying
it's a micro
you
purchase.
wouldn't have,
Well, micro purchase would mean that you would simply verify that the price was fair and
you
equitable.
buy it, okay.
Yes. Sorry.
Okay, so that's the recommendation of the task force, that we go out for competitive bid?
The heads are nodding.
Okay.
Up here too.
We didn't call for an action item, so we're not going to vote on that today. Okay, I'm trying to move through this quickly so that we can get enough time for the audio-video. Okay. Item number 3 on the agenda, fair unemployment cost discussion. Leslie, did you want to take
Yeah,
that?
we mentioned this a little bit when we had realized that the county was still paying for the unemployment insurance, and was that it, just the unemployment? So Dina can speak to it as well.
Okay, so the
What do you
county,
think?
Okay.
No, not your mask, sorry.
The microphone.
By the way, Dina Darrow's our finance director, everybody. Okay, go ahead, Dina.
so the workers' comp and the unemployment is remitted, the county remits on behalf of the fair. The fair does send us funding for their unemployment, but does not send us funding for their workers' comp. So because they are a separate entity and they have a different calendar than we do, they have their own separate audit, we would like to transition that to them so that they're also, as an employer, paying those employer costs of workers' comp. And it looks like it's about $2,000 a year.
Okay, and they're aware of this?
Yes.
Okay.
No?
Yeah, just come forward. This is Alexia Jordan.
Sorry.
She's the executive director of the Fairgrounds.
Just want to clarify, the workman's comp versus unemployment, those are two separate items.
Yes.
We do remit for the unemployment piece, not the workman's comp. It makes sense to let us just go ahead and handle the unemployment piece as we cut out the middleman.
Okay.
We have not discussed any further on the workman's comp.
Oh, I
Okay.
thought that you and payroll
No.
had talked about that.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we can.
Okay. So you guys will work,
It was our hope that starting the new fiscal year, that we could transition that over, but we can talk with payroll.
That's also outside of our budget year, so it would be easier for us if we could budget into it next year and make the changes
Are
then,
you
rather
on a
than
calendar?
immediately right now when I have zero revenue.
no, are you in a calendar year or are you in a fiscal?
We're in a calendar year.
You're on a calendar year?
I think we can work something out.
Okay.
We can work
But I understand that cutting the middleman out is no problem.
Okay,
Sure.
great.
Thank you.
You're going to work it out?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. All right, I'm going to skip again. Item 8, fiscal year 20 Justice Assistance Grant Program Award.
Jody's here.
Jody, did you put this on the agenda? Yes, ma'am. Okay, let's take it up. So this is item 8 on your agenda.
So I'll just do a preamble.
Yeah.
Basically, every year, the JAG grant, it's a formula grant that we're awarded through the city of Coeur d'Alene through an MOU. The dollars that are typically allocated are for some type of criminal justice. In the past, it's been technology. This year, the sheriff has asked that those funds be used for Cellbrite.
Yes, and we were here a couple weeks ago with a quote that was $30,000. The grant we get is $15,390. We got a new quote to downsize the package that we were going to get from them, and it's going to cost $15,000. And the yearly licensing fee for that is $6,325 a year.
Okay, so for everyone, I'm sorry, Leslie, go ahead.
No.
For everyone's benefit in the room, could you please explain what Cellbrite is?
Cellbrite is a technology where we can take our victims' phones or suspects' phones and download all the information off the phone. So if I do sex crimes, so if they send nude pictures or threatening messages and all that kind of stuff, we can actually pull it off the phone and have it as evidence going forward in the trial.
Okay, and how do we do this today?
We actually have to go down to Coeur d'Alene City has the program, or we mostly go down to the FBI office who has the actual Cellbrite program. But we do well over 100 phones a year for our victims and that, and it's just really time consuming to be able to do that.
Is this as a result of a warrant? Or, I mean,
If it can be as a warrant for like a suspect's phone and that, we would have to get a warrant from a judge, signed by a judge saying
if I
that we
were a
could do
victim
that.
and I said, look at my phone,
By permission, we can also do it, yes, sir.
okay, and an MOU is a memo.
Memo of understanding, go ahead.
For everybody in the, so,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, thoughts, Leslie?
I still have some questions about the program, which I didn't realize that this was what we're talking about today. So is it possible if I just send you an email with my questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then, so I'm assuming that the grant, Jody, will come before a business meeting for the application? That's correct. Okay, so this is just a FYI, we're bringing this forward again.
Okay, cool. City, okay, City of
Okay.
Coeur d'Alene and the county,
And
okay, got
are we
it.
good for next business meeting, or, I mean, do we have a time frame?
The MOU is ready for the next business meeting.
Okay,
That grant application itself will come following that.
perfect.
Okay, fair enough.
Good.
Nancy, how much time do we need? Thank you, appreciate it. How much time do we need for audio, video? 15 minutes? Okay, what I'm going to do is, I don't want to burden the folks to have to hang around unless they choose to. So we're going to take literally 15 minutes. So I'm going to limit comments to 2 minutes apiece. Collect your thoughts, please. And you can comment on anything on today's agenda, but it has to be on today's agenda, please. So for the next 15 minutes, I'm going to open it up for public comment. Please state your name and address when you come forward. Bev, you were first. I promised.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Beverly Gannett, you want my whole street address and everything too? Or just Coeur d'Alene?
Yeah, we need your home address, yeah.
4777 West Woodside Avenue in Coeur d'Alene.
Thank you.
First, I would like to address what happened at the
Hold-
hearing,
Bev,
Bill.
hold on a
I'll
second.
have to spell it for you later. It's
I didn't hear what you said.
your last name.
Last name.
Oh, the spelling?
Yes.
Oh, sure. Gannett, I'm sorry. Yeah. I have a hearing issue.
Go right ahead, Bev.
At the hearing, it was the other side who came and rushed the board during the hearing, just so you know. It was not the
While
conservatives.
I was watching, that was one of the bad actors. that-
Right.
Yeah, okay.
And then at the end of the hearing, of course, there was some outburst, but they all stayed back there and outbursted. Just, not that that's a word, but just that's, so that's clear, okay? And then the second thing, on that Title 39-41-1, if you guys were to, do you have to call a special session to unappoint these Panhandle Health District people?
Okay, I'm going to speculate on this because I don't have legal counsel here. My guess is that we could potentially, as a board, we three, initiate the action, and then it would have to go before the other four. It doesn't have to wait for someone's term to expire, as the code reads. So we could actually, initiate, as can any other county.
Now, we can't ask you to initiate that, or you all have to determine that yourself?
You can certainly ask, yeah. I mean, I don't think we're going to make that decision today.
Right.
But anybody can ask anything, Bev.
Sure, because I'm just looking at the procedure. Because I still don't know what the legality of it- having an elected board create mandates or law, or, like the Panhandle, an unelected board. Certainly the lawyers are on that now, so as we move along, we'll find the legality of that. But I just don't understand how they became the body here who was the decision makers. It should have been the city councils, at least, it sounds to me, and it sounds like they put this off onto the Panhandle.
It actually falls within Panhandle's purview to do what they did. Now, if you're challenging that, that's a whole different matter, because now you're basically, I think you're going to wind up potentially challenging statute, the constitutionality of the statute itself that allows them to do what they did.
So the state statute allows an unelected board to make a mandate and a law?
Yes, because that unelected board is actually appointed by the boards of county commissioners. Yes.
Okay. Well, certainly I disagree with that
Fair
whole
enough.
thing, and we'll work on that, but, so that's all I have to say.
Thank you, appreciate it. Anyone else? Summer?
Summer Bushnell, 5006 East Portside Court, Post Falls. So, I agree with not disparaging people in public, and that may have gotten miscommunicated by me or other people that this is not personal. I want an elected person on that. The only area where I would disagree, like you said, you didn't want it at this county building. You have a wonderful tech person over here. She knows her job. The Panhandle Health person didn't know basic settings for Zoom. And that's why they got the no mask thing on there. So to me, when they said they were gonna have the meeting here, I'm like, yay, we can see it on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Nancy knows what she's doing. You've got a competent tech staff. And so for me, if you don't want to have it here because it's disrupting service, you should find somewhere else. But my concern with NIC is they're requiring masks, and I think some people will be afraid to come because they won't be accommodated or they have to justify themselves to NIC. And I'm wondering the same thing about the Croc Center, that maybe some of these meetings do need to be in a bigger location, but they need to say that they'll accommodate you whether you want to wear a mask or not, and the social distancing. Because I know there's some bigger churches, or I was even thinking when they had their very first meeting, why don't we just have it outside with the big loudspeaker? But that's just me, because then we're social distancing and none of those worries. And then, when is Jay up for reappointment? Like, is she reconsidered does she have a term where then you reconsider her, or?
You want to answer that?
Sure. The terms are for 5 years, and hers ends on June of 2021.
Next June.
So
11
11
months.
months.
what can I do to get you guys to push that up? I would really like to have this be an elected position sooner, like before the end of the calendar year.
Anybody want to answer
I would
that?
take any of you guys. I just want an elected officials to be on that board, because then I feel like we have better direct communication. To me, it's perceived an extra layer of bureaucracy that I think makes both sides kind of angry that we don't feel like we're being heard.
And actually, Summer, a number of the comments that we received echoed your sentiments,
Yeah.
okay, that they want to see an elected person in that position.
When's the soonest we can do that? Pretty please.
Anybody want to answer that?
Well, we'd have to all sit down and talk about it, because it's something
And
that.
how often do the
Let me-
15
let me-
county?
Let me finish the
people do it?
answer.
Oh, sorry.
You have to ask, as Chris pointed out, and then we have to talk about it, and two of the three of us have to agree. That's the process.
So when can we get that on the agenda?
I don't know.
We can talk about it. We might be able to get it on the agenda within the next 3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You know, as to when it would occur,
Yeah.
that's a
Because you have
whole
to
noth-
give notice.
Yeah,
so,
there you go, yeah.
I'm
And it-
just saying, I'd be grumpy if you're like, oh, it'll have to happen 6 months from now. I'd be like, well, please, let's speed this up and give it priority.
Thank you, appreciate it, you bet. Jeff, Tyler, I think your hand was up. Ann, I'll get to you next.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Jeff Tyler. I live at 5892 West Harbor Drive in unincorporated Kootenai County. I'm here to basically just talk about my disgust for what happened on Thursday by the unelected board members. And I implore you guys to consider changing them. We had two board members from Bonner County that they seem to have rational explanations and votes on that, but then the two from our county seem to be, I don't know where they came from. It's been said by a doctor recently that they actually are practicing medicine without a license. So if one of them has a license they're using on the board, maybe we should know so that we know who to take to the lawsuit. I just want to talk about a little bit of a different perspective here on the whole mask situation. In my hands, I've got, this is the cover page of Idaho Almanac from 1977 edition from the Office of the Governor of John Evans, and this is from the Library of Congress. What it is, it tells the morbidity, or in other words, the deaths in Idaho, and this particular one is from 72 to 75. So I'm just going to go through a couple numbers here from 1975, keeping in mind that today, don't know the exact number, but I know it's around 135 or more deaths in Idaho from the COVID. Okay. And it's not because of the COVID, but with COVID. Here's some death numbers from 1975. I'm just picking a year. Chickenpox had 144 deaths in 75. Gastroenteritis had 646 deaths. Gonorrhea had 2113 deaths.
We've been pretty active then, huh?
Obviously,
We need some levity, guys.
obviously some different times. That's why. Yeah, I wanted to mention that.
Thank you for that, by the way.
Hepatitis A, 195 deaths. Influenza, 623 people died in Idaho from influenza. Did we shut down Idaho in 75? I don't remember that. Mumps, 72. Here's a good one, streptococcal infection. 1,048 people died in Idaho that year from streptococcal infection. And the biggest one, viral upper respiratory infection, which is what a lot of this goes along with COVID. 2,571 people died in 75 when our population was much less.
Okay, I'm going to have to give you 30 seconds. I think you're making your point well. by
Okay,
the
so
way.
my point is, why are we listening to them? Why don't we listen to our President Trump? President Trump said masks should be optional. If you want to wear them, wear them. If you don't want to wear them, don't wear them. He also said he does not want our country shut down or any more problems for businesses, locally and nationally. So why are we doing this here in our county where we have 3/4 of the people voted for President Trump and he is our president? Why are we listening to unelected officials tell us what we have to do? And it's really frustrating to me because I've got health issues, legitimate health issues. I've got borderline high blood pressure and a history of asthma. And I go into places, stores now, and you get this look, and you get people wanting to push you around and be mad about why you're not wearing a mask. So basically, we're dividing ourselves by doing this.
Okay, thank you, Jeff, appreciate it. Ann?
Ann Seddon, 2477 West Hull Loop, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I'm here to speak about the children. As you know, I'm a teacher, particularly a teacher of young children. The reason I would like to see J removed is because, to me, it is inhumane to require children over the age of 2 to wear a mask. Number one, they're not at risk, really, hardly at all. And the other thing is, essentially, this is creating a situation where schools can't open. You're not going to have a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old little boy sit there for what, 5 hours with a mask on. This is child abuse. The other thing I am going to say, I'm from a family of engineers and scientists. Follow the science. I did not see one thing from this dictate from Panhandle that stated facts. I've not seen it from our government on the effectiveness of masks. And to take these drastic actions based on no science, and in most cases, contradictory science of how masks are not good for you. How much time do I have left?
Take 30 seconds, go ahead. Go ahead.
So just quickly, I don't want to wear a mask because I know it's more of a hazard for me to wear one. I touch my face, my glasses fog, and they fill up with sweat. So that's it, but think about the kids, please. This was, in my mind, abusive, and therefore, these people should be removed.
Thank you, Ann. I'm going to take 2 more. So the gentleman in the back, sir, you had your hand up. Tony, I want to make sure you get an opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
Go right ahead, sir,
Good morning.
please.
My name is James Clayton. I reside at 7973 North Westview Drive in
Okay.
Coeur d'Alene.
Mm-hmm.
So first, I just want to address some statistics that have not been brought up at any time, but are very easily found. I used the U.S. Census Bureau 2019 estimate for the 5-county population, and I took Panhandle's own numbers. These are actually as of Thursday. So the population of 5 counties the U.S. Census Bureau gives is 245,861. Now, there are some estimates that's as high as 300, maybe a little bit more than that, but I'll use the lowball number. The number of infections to the population equates to 0.05%. The death rate for for the population of the 5 counties is 0.00004%. And this is what we're doing. If we had a real pandemic, I worked in chemical, biological, and radiological warfare in the military. I was also in EMS, retired from both. And I can tell you that this is crazy. Okay, besides that, I have read the statute, Title 39. And under Title 39, it was created in the 70s, the board was, under the purview of the Director of Public Health in the state. And if you look up his mandate on what he can and can't do, in conjunction, or in parallel to what our Constitution, U.S. Constitution says, government should be limited and narrow. And his mandate is limited and narrow in emergency situations. He has the right to isolate and quarantine. The definitions are very limited when you go look up the definitions. They primarily addresses those people who are infected or known to be infected, not the general public who are healthy. Okay. So the mandate underneath that they created, and they said it in that meeting on Thursday, the lawyer says they have broad and sweeping powers. We never gave them that.
30 seconds, go ahead.
So my point is that they don't have that power. And you, as our county commissioners, they targeted Kootenai County. The other counties are not mandated. I'm upset about that. I really would like you guys to get control of that situation. And I would really, really appreciate that very much.
Well noted. Thank you, sir, for your time. I'm going to take one more. And then we're going to let Representative Wisniewski speak, and that's going to be it. Ma'am, you had your hand up, please.
And you're all welcome to send us emails.
Hello, my name is Kimberly Tanner. My address is 11137 North Gairloch Street, Gairloch in Hayden. I'm here today as a representative of myself and also as a person that works in Coeur d'Alene and Kootenai County as a business owner and manager. I have a health condition. I have multiples actually. And wearing a mask is very detrimental to my health. The mandate has put an undue stress upon myself, the amount of anxiety that I have gone through as just as a person, where I can shop, where I can't shop, where I can eat, where I can't eat, is unnecessary in this situation. And to have someone that is representing me, that I have no ability as far as going out and voting for them or voting them out, is unfair. These boards should be made up of elected officials. We have other elected officials from other counties that are on this board. Our officials on that board representing Kootenai County should also be elected. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to call on Representative Tony Wisniewski. He's one of our representatives in the legislature from, is it Post Falls, Tony?
Post Falls, District 3. So
Okay.
Post Falls, Rathdrum, and Worley.
Okay, go right ahead.
Tony Wisniewski, 15417 West Destiny Drive in Post Falls, unincorporated part of Kootenai County. I'd like to talk about how this all started. The original mandate was to flatten the curve. We wanted to not make the curve zero. We wanted to flatten the curve. We wanted to get the pandemic spread through the population to get herd immunity. And the way you do that is there's two limits. There's zero, where you lock down everybody. You might as well put them in prison, and even prison isn't safe. And the other extreme is no limitations, and it spreads so fast that we overwhelm the hospital capacity. So it was a reasoned approach, and that's why everybody thought that that was a good idea to follow the state guidelines. If you look at the curve now, we are so low as far as hospital capacity statewide that we are delaying the inevitable. Now, I put together a chart, and I didn't know that we would have public testimony at this meeting, so I will send you all a copy of the chart, and it's not something that is available online. I had to create it from the data. So I looked at death rates per 100,000 people in all of the 50 states and the case rate, the positivity of the cases. And all we hear about from the media and from the health departments is, look at the huge number of cases we have. People, we want more cases because the survival rate is 99.8%. It's under 0.2% fatality rate of those people that get infected. If you look at the extremes of the curve, you'll see New Jersey, which has the highest death rate of like 240 people per 100,000. And then it's New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, DC, all these people, all these places that have a real high concentration.
High density.
High density, high population density. And if you look at the other extreme, it is, like I said, almost a prison-like situation. It's Alaska and Hawaii, who have very low death rate and very low positivity rate because they're so isolated and so sparsely populated. So you have those two extremes. If you look at Idaho, it has the best of both worlds. It has a very high, reasonably high, 15 to 18%, depending on which numbers you look at, of positive test cases, and a very low death rate of 1.9% of the cases, not the infected population. So I just want to indicate that based on just that data alone, it says that we're way overreacting, and we want to get past the curve, the hump of the curve, and let nature take its course and build up herd immunity in our state. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Pastor Remington, you're also a representative, sir. Would you care to speak?
Oh, boy.
Tim Remington, and I'm always reluctant to give my 5590 South Blue Creek Road. Scratch it when you finally log it down, will you?
We'll redact it. How's that?
Thanks. Just real briefly on all of this, we've had the virologists come. We've talked to the hospitals and our legislatures, and we brought them all together, and we have discussed it with them. And the losses that were taken they're huge losses on our community. They're huge losses on the hospital. They're huge losses on everybody. The actual fear factor is the biggest thing that we're actually dealing with. We're dealing with it with mental health. We're dealing with it with suicide. We're dealing with it in all of these levels, which is part of the reason that we stayed open, because we have a very high density rate as far as locally right here of drug addiction and everything else. And so these people need to actually get the help that they need through this because of the type of lifestyles that they have. And we're dealing on a lot of people right now that are going through that. And we need to stop the fear of all of this. We already know, we brought proof that even wearing a mask, the average mask that we have, I mean, when you have something like this that is 200 to 800 times smaller than the mask that we're actually breathing, it's like a mosquito getting through a chain link fence. And so when you put that together and you say, it just doesn't work, and then nobody even listens, we look around going, do you understand what we just said? I mean, it doesn't work. And then they still do it. I think that's called common sense. And I think that we need to be allowed to use our common sense. I would ask you to use your common sense. And I would ask you to, when we go down for legislation, we always have a group of people that come and give us the facts so we know to make a good decision. You guys need to have those facts in front of you to make good decisions. You now have responsibility over Panhandle Health, some of the people that sit on Panhandle Health. And I think that the facts that you go by need to determine whether or not we need to have these particular people that are representing our community without real facts in front of them, or them just believing these other people. I think that we need to make decisions on this. And I think it's about time that we start just getting people that have common sense and really care about our community. And that's really all I really want to say. And I think you guys will make the right decisions on this. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Remington. Okay, so that ends public comment. Thank you, everyone. You're certainly welcome to stay. We're moving on to the final item on our agenda. No, we did. I thought we did.
Oh, so you...
Maybe we can do it now. I don't think it's a big deal. if we're gonna be repetitious tomorrow, there's no point. I mean.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, initially it was put on for today, and then you asked me to add it for Tuesday.
Oh, that's the
So-
one you and I talked about.
So I beg your pardon, I wasn't sure if you wanted to have a brief
Is this the one with the challenge?
No, this is, there's two. There's two.
This is not intermatched.
This has to do with the federal regulation for the broadband and the additional signature that's required for DUNS and CAGE, and so I asked the board if I could sign off on that. I didn't get a response, so I thought I would add it to today. And
Gotcha.
then you asked me to add it for tomorrow, so I'm just seeking board direction, so.
Okay,
I think we could take it up tomorrow.
I read it and I'm fine with it. Yeah.
For me to
so-
sign?
Yeah, so.
And I
we'll-
think I even said to you.
You
go ahead and
did,
sign
you
it.
did, I just didn't get a 2. I just didn't get a
You got it
second.
now.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries.
Okay,
Thanks, Jody.
okay. Are you talking about the property tax relief or something different with the CARES Act?
Chris?
No, we're not, but that's normally what people want to know about. So I'll just briefly say that Idaho,
Not long, not long.
part of the 1.25 billion, I think 4 million is coming to Kootenai County for the purchase of things like masks and PPE, overtime that was caused. So we have a whole bunch of different levels of federal CARES.
Excuse me, I'm going to recess for 5 minutes. It's been requested, but go ahead, Leslie, go ahead and finish. Go ahead. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Bill.
So that's one part of it. So I don't know which part of the Federal CARES Act you may have a question on.
Are you guys going to be having another meeting going into it thoroughly, or is there a way that I can get that?
You can get that information. So we actually have the head of our COVID task force right here who knows quite a bit about it.
If you want to take some time offline and talk with Jody, Jody, is that okay with you?
Yes.
Yeah, it'll be after the meeting, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think Leslie explained the essence, and then there's the whole property tax relief piece, and I think Jody can help out. Okay, so it's 12:02. Josh, thank you for your patience. We're going to resume our meeting now. And this is our, Josh is here with EFCO Sound and Electronics, and I'm going to let Nancy speak to this and introduce Josh and the scope of his presentation. Go right ahead, Nancy, please.
Nancy Jones, Communications Manager for the board. So this originally came up because obviously during COVID, this has become our primary meeting room, and the more that this goes on, the longer we don't know how often we'll need to keep doing this. If this will be through the winter, hopefully it's over soon. We just don't know. And what we've discovered in all of that is we have some significant issues with this system. I will tell you, I just came from that mic to this one because when Jody was speaking here earlier, the mics weren't even, I'm sure we won't be able to really hear her on the recording because it was so muffled, the sound quality, the difference in volume, even though these are on one volume setting, that mic was absolutely blowing my eardrums out. We have had a lot of complaints from the public because they can't hear people speak. A little while ago, right before we went on the break, Jody was over there talking. None of that got picked up on the public video. What we need are some good omnidirectional mics that would let us hear people in the room without having to handheld mics around. We've had issues. We have public hearings in here for the hearing examiner, community development. We're trying to play Zoom through speakers and pick the sound up out of the speakers into these mics. People can't hear it. They're not able to fully participate in our meetings the way that it could be done. One of the issues that we've discussed, though, is it turns out our system that runs all of this, and Josh, I'm sure will touch on this, is an older analog system. We were told when we did this project that it would be about a $90,000 project. The board at that time budgeted half of that. So we did a half a job. And that at the time, that was fiscally responsible. It got us where we needed to be. Thankfully, we did it when we did, so that during COVID, we could do all of this and bring our meetings to the public and have participation. Really, what this turns out to be is that other half that if we had been able to do that at the time, this is what the system might have looked like. I had talked to Dina a couple of months ago and said, look, we're looking, could we get just some more mics, just some omnidirectionals? And she said, that would probably be a COVID expense. Let's look into it. Then we discovered really in order for the mics to work and the system to be what it needs to be for this is the solution. And so because at least part of it would be COVID related directly, I was told, go ahead and bring it forward. Let's at least have the conversation.
Okay, great. Josh, take it away.
Thank you.
And
Josh,
thank you for your patience, by the way.
Not a
Hold
problem.
that mic in because they're kind of,
Yeah, good point.
They are a little bit
Nancy, you
finicky
want to
at
let us
times.
know if you can't hear? If you can't hear, okay. Never mind. Go ahead,
Josh Helgeson with a company out of Spokane called EVCO Sound and Electronics. For the record. So who is EVCO? So we're locally owned and operated out of Spokane for over 50 years. We've taken care of communication concerns for multiple different clients throughout healthcare, education, government. We did the audio system within this room. I believe it was 5 or 6 years ago. We've done tons of other government and public entity buildings, systems that need to be operational 99.9% of the time. Need to have that uptime, needs to be something that's user-friendly. We take care of solutions like that for our clients. So the way that we put together a process when we meet with clients that have concerns.
Pull the mic in closer, Josh, please. Okay, there you go.
There we go. So first off, what we look at is what are our clients looking to accomplish? Mainly, most of the times, it is a concern or an issue that's come up that they need to solve. And then what are the concerns? Is this money going to be used appropriately? Is this going to, the solution going to accomplish our concerns? Is it going to complete what we need to have happen? So some of the key factors in our basis of design, we want it to be a great user experience. We don't want somebody to be anxious when they're trying to get a system up and running. It needs to be super simple and easy that almost anyone can run it. We want to also meet the use cases. So yes, there are some times where things need to be a little bit more complex, but that is in order to meet that end, desire, use, and goal. We also want to be scalable. So as you can kind of see, we've reached a limit or a cap as to what the system here is capable of, and we do need to expand on that. So we like to put in components in place that you're able to add those building blocks down the road or in the future. So challenge number 1, phone conferencing. As you can see in front of me right now, there is no dedicated phone within this room, short of the conference phone that we do have on the table in front of you there. In order to get that audio from it, it needs to come out of the speakerphone on our phone right there, in through the microphone, get processed from the system, and then get pushed into the room itself. So the solution for that is to integrate the phone directly into the room. So what it does is it is a head-end piece of equipment that does do all that, what's called a digital signal processor. That processes all of our audio in and out. We can also connect a phone line to that, so that way directly from the system, our microphones act as our mics, and our speakers overhead act as our speakerphone. So basically we would just turn the room into one large speakerphone. Ease of recording, really nice and easy. That system itself can then shoot an output if we needed to get it into a public recording, or if we needed to get it into another source of audio being sent out, such as a Zoom call, such as a YouTube stream, any other web-based conferencing along those lines. And then you can control and route that. So if we need to turn the volume up and down on that, you're able to control that really nice and easy, as well as be able to do the direct dialing directly from that. So there are some more components that kind of go into how this specifically works. We have kind of a lot of the foundation here already. It's just adding on top of those additional components. Number 2, audio pickup for the audience, as well as different groups such as what we have over here to my right, or anyone else in the room. As you notice, a lot of folks had to come and move the microphone in order to get it adjusted to them. The nice thing with different types of microphones is they're meant to do different types of things. These are very bidirectional, so they want you to be talking directly into them. One of our solutions we would potentially recommend is doing boundary mics that are what's called omnidirectional. So they have a wider pickup pattern, so it's going to pick it up a little bit more naturally instead of me having to be right in front of it in order for it to pick up the audio correctly. So this would allow flexibility during your meetings. So in the case of doing a work group session where you have the table in a U fashion or in a squared setup, you'd be able to have the microphones pick up a whole lot better from there, because the flexibility of them, you do not rely on wires. And they are rechargeable. So it is kind of the nice thing is they have a nice little base station. The mics aren't going to run out of batteries without you knowing that they need to be replaced, just like your handheld microphones that you currently have right now. Batteries go out in those, you need to replace them. And challenge number 3, video routing for presentations. So currently right now, the only way that we're able to do a video route from here is by directly plugging in HDMI, and that does get up on the system here in front of us. But there is not a way for that signal to get to anything external. So there were some concerns brought up earlier about hosting this meeting at a different site. Currently right now, the only thing and the way that we're able to record this presentation or send it to the far side is to actually use one of these cameras up behind me here to shoot at the screen, which isn't going to necessarily give the best quality presentation possible. So I do have to film this, and then that has to go into your system here, and then would have to go out to the Zoom meeting from there. So one of our solutions for that is what's called AV over IP, just like you see any kind of computer interaction back and forth from a server. So you're able to route the correct video as well as it takes an audio stream with it. So that way you could send this presentation here, because it is plugged in into the room. You'd be able to send that directly to your Zoom meeting and or any other display within the facility if you do wish. Nice thing there is that you don't have to run additional wires. In the case of your current data connections within the facility, as long as you have a connection to that, I would then be able to route it to any of those other displays. So if you wanted to have an overflow room, you'd be able to do that. If I wanted to have additional displays within a room or within the facility, you're able to route it to any of those locations, as well as directly to your Zoom call that then you could have in a separate facility itself. So that's kind of the nice things with the different types of systems, and what we're using when it comes to components for this is kind of a nice all-in-one unit that can do all that routing and all that controlling solves a lot of the issues when it comes to the microphones themselves. There's some technical terms in auto gating, so that way it makes sure that if I talk from further back, it ramps my voice up. If I talk closer to it, it'll actually take my voice down. So the systems are a whole lot smarter into what they can actually do now, as well as that same piece of equipment can then do all the video routing and audio routing as need be. So the component look and feel. So what does this look like? What does this feel like? Pretty simple and easy. You'd have a couple different touch screens throughout the room. From those touch screens, you're able to do any selection of muting microphones, volume up and down on microphones, volume up and down on speakers within the room, and able to select where you want the video routed, whether you want it to be from one of the camera sources here. We would be able to utilize a lot of the current equipment when it does come to the broadcast components of it, and that's the cameras that you see in the room, and be able to source select that and send it to whatever source you need to. As well as then you can see there on the right-hand side, that is what a little boundary microphone looks like. It's no bigger than the little microphone base stand that I have here in front of me. So really nice and non-obtrusive, and you don't have to be so concerned about moving it and getting it in the correct position and direction. So of course, what do these components cost? So this is just a budgetary idea, kind of per the conversations that have been brought forth for the different solutions, kind of the top 3 that we wanted to accomplish there. So you can see a digital signal processor with the advanced capabilities, be able to, you'd also need a switch behind that and to get the correct wiring in the correct locations that don't have it right now. A couple different touchscreens for control, the phone dialing, routing. A group would be able to custom build that screen to you to a certain degree to make sure that it operates correctly for you and that is really nice and seamless and easy to use. Also testing and tuning the system. So anytime you put a new component in, you want to make sure that the system's working operationally correct. The speakers aren't too loud in one position, not loud enough in another, that the microphones are all tested, tuned, and balanced. Then of course the microphone solution itself. So we talked about doing 8 wireless boundary microphones. Those would be ones that you could place on tables or specifically in different areas within the room, and that would do your audio pickup for that. It also includes kind of all the other components that would go in making that part of the system run. And then we do want some headsets for the current body packs. So we do have 2 body packs right now that do have little lapel microphones, and there was a request to have some headphones added to that as well. The reason being on that one is that if you turn sideways, it loses the mic pickup on that side, so the headset stays nice in place. And then of course, AV over IP routing. 2 inputs and 2 outputs is kind of what we saw, just generally looking at it right now, where there's 2 inputs on either side of the room we want to be able to plug into for presentations. And then 2 different outputs, one locally here to the projector, and then one to your broadcast system that would then be able to send it to the Zoom call on the far side. So these are just budgetary ideas of components that we've done in similar systems along these lines. Then I'll open it to the floor for any questions and answers. I think one of the first ones that I can address is budgetary and procurement. So with different components like this, I like to say it's kind of like asking somebody to paint a picture. So I can make the same request to 2 different people and say, I'd love for you to paint a picture of a barn with a mountain background and a scarecrow up front. 2 different people are going to come back to you with 2 completely different things. And of course, those generally have 2 different costs associated with it. But at the same time, you described the same thing up front. Did you get the same thing on return? So that kind of goes into the design build process versus the design bid build process. In traditional sense, we do have an avenue that we can do for a design build process that falls within the guidelines, state procurement for bids and processes along those lines through the King County Directors Association. So what they did is they put out a bid saying, hey, here's the type of equipment that AV systems and technology along these lines would contain, and companies such as ourselves had to bid on that, and then was awarded for each different line of the materials on that due to the lowest bid at that point in time, as well as then also factored in the labor. So there are predetermined rates for labor along those components and predetermined discounts when it comes to the material on them. So that allows groups such as yourselves to be able to procure those components a lot quicker without having to go through the lengthy process of doing a design, bid, build process. When it does come to a design, build, bid process, does take longer, and it traditionally is more expensive. That is something where you would need to hire a consultant to come in and design the system. They would then need to also manage the bid and build process, and then have the checks and balances at the end for that. When it comes to the CARES Act, from what I've been dealing with a lot of public groups in the state of Washington, is the state of Washington put it out, and I understand this is the state of Idaho, but I would just want to say let's probably check to see if the laws are the same, is that they've given us almost a 90-day window to where the expense needs to be substantially completed as well as substantially billed by the end of October, and that it needs to be completed by the end of the year. So something I'd say it certainly would look into seeing if those dates match up. And the reason being is because any project that would take, for this scale, would take about 90 days to get completed. And that is without a design process, bid process, and build process at that point in time.
Okay. Quick, yeah, please. You need to
be in
pick
a
up Jody on a mic.
Sorry.
You get the podium, Jody.
So I'm just curious, that a design build and then a design bid build is typically in construction.
Correct.
So are you saying that that would be applicable to equipment?
Equipment and labor.
Okay, so you're taking that same construction procurement and you're applying that to equipment. So on the federal procurement, typically equipment is not actually the design build, design bid build, that's for construction. And so for equipment, you would do specs.
Sure.
And so I think that you probably would agree with that.
I would agree with
terms
that.
of-
In this case, this is deemed a construction project, and most of the projects that we do work with is that if we're physically touching somebody's site, it is considered a construction project.
Okay, so then you're paying Davis-Bacon wages then?
Correct.
Okay, so I would challenge that myself personally. I would say also that on the procurement side, on the state of Idaho, it really does encourage that you don't, even if you do a sole source, that you actually do it with the understanding of what things are going to cost. On this equipment, I would say that I would just encourage the board to get a spec sheet, and then even at minimum, even if you're concerned about time, what you could do is get pricing, so then that way you knew that the pricing of what you were getting was fair and equitable. And it can be where it's oranges to oranges, apples to apples. So I would just say that procurement, I would just disagree with the basis, but I understand the objective.
Any other questions?
We often will close in between, but if we have these on, we're projecting in that room. That is a serious issue, especially when we're doing,
Yes, good point.
non-public meetings. So is that something that can be addressed?
That's something that can be addressed and solved easily.
Okay.
And then are you able to get us a spec sheet for the equipment?
It is possible to get the specifications for, some of the components that we described throughout. I would just like further guidance as to what process is going to be taken at that point in time. Certainly with us dedicating the time to putting together those specifications, we would just like at least a commitment
Yeah,
that
come on, Jody.
that would be taken care of.
I would agree with the gentleman that you really don't want him to do extra work, well, then he's actually providing the competitive analysis for others. I think what we would say in the federal side, that would preclude him from actually bidding. So I would encourage whatever the existing technology is, that is not proprietary, that is actually from a public perspective, public knowledge. So I would encourage you to get the spec sheet of your existing technology, and I was under the impression that that wasn't available unless we asked you. So I would say that where that information is, whether in the last time there was a presentation and where there was a purchase of equipment, if we have some type of invoice that specifies that, that would be wonderful. So then that way you wouldn't be required to do something above and beyond. Clearly what you're proposing then would be something that you would similarly present to others for them to provide a solution as well, and then to give a base price, or then you can do the comparative analysis.
What you're basically, okay, I'm trying to unscramble what you're saying.
Oh.
Are you talking about an RFQ?
No, I'm just saying that you can simply do an informal bid similar to what you have done with this gentleman, is just an informal question. Here's the existing technology. Do me a favor, provide me these spec sheets for this cost and how it would then come out in the wash. I understand that there's a design build in the way they approach it. I'm talking about solely the spec sheet that would not require them to do anything beyond what already exists, and you're just giving others opportunity to be able to provide a pricing as well. At the end of the day, the board's going to go with whatever decision is the best decision, but I think that it would be best suited to understand the pricing and the understanding of the options, that's all.
Okay, so.
Does that help you? Did I help you at all?
I think so. So you.
So the net is that I
Right.
think that to be open and fair and taking, whether it's CARES Act money or county money,
Okay.
that you should at least at minimum get 3 bids or some 3 responses on the cost of what it would be to implement. It could just very well verify that you're getting the best price and the best technology with this gentleman here. And-
Okay.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Was that better?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was almost circuitous. I'm trying to understand, because I spent half my life in technology, and I'm trying to understand where you were coming from.
Round like a circle and a spiral
Well, I
like a
mean-
wheel within a wheel. I was just making fun because you said levity was important. Is that it? Okay.
Yeah, well, no, I understand. What you're trying to say is, let's get 3 competitive bids.
I said that in the email, and I think I'm just reiterating it now. And then I just was responding because I felt like the direction was that there was no other way to meet the timeline, and I would just challenge that in my personal opinion. Sorry, now my phone.
Did we give the impression that there was no other way to meet the timeline?
No, I just think that the impression was in terms of the way it was described, that you have 90 days and you have this opportunity and it's going to take 90 days to do. I felt like I just wanted
Oh.
I wanted to make sure I addressed that as well.
My sense was that you were saying that it would take 90 days to implement.
That is correct, that a project of this scale would traditionally take a construction company 90 days in order to implement it.
Okay.
What I was stating was that due to the CARES Act, and again, I would ask for more research to be done on this due to the state of Idaho, is that
Are you saying we have to be completed by the end of this year? Is that it?
That's what we've seen in the other guidelines, is that the invoices need to be accrued as an expense by the state within a certain time frame. They also need to be components that were not previously budgeted and that are directly as a result of COVID, that this is a necessity in order to still hold public meetings, public attendance, keep the 6 feet apart, so on and so forth. So in that statement, it is that they wanted to receive all invoices by the end of October, and that the work needed to be substantially complete by that date as well. If we do go through a design bid build process, that traditionally takes longer.
That
That can
takes
take
long-
up
no, I
to
can
about
understand that.
6
Okay,
months,
okay.
give or take.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so just in clarification, the expenses have to be incurred by the 30th of December. And so for that, and CARES Act funding is actually federal assistance, and so it then abides by the federal 2 CFR 200. And so those are the references I am making. I'm more than happy to do additional research. Whatever question you may have, I'm happy to do it.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Josh?
I was just going to say that I would, I mean, this may be the best option, but I would encourage 2 other bids as well.
Sure.
You know, spending 14 years in television, the omnidirectional mics are anywhere from $450 all the way up to $1,200. So to spend $15,000 on 8 mics just seems a little bit pricey, and I know there's components there too. So I'd just be a little bit more comfortable to see what's out there.
Anyone else?
And on our side of things, when it comes to a bid process, we do like to see things apples to apples. So if we're bidding on a project, we'd like to see it specified. Here's the list of equipment that's going to be used on it. Here's how it's all going to go together. So in that case, it would require an actual design to be created in order for that to be bid on correctly.
I would agree with the gentleman that apples and apples are always important. I would ask if he could provide the initial spec, so then that way we could move forward rather quickly. That's for the existing system. And so again, I would say that that's public record, so that should not be proprietary. So if you would be kind enough to send that forward, that would really be wonderful. And then we could go forward and make sure that we have apples and apples and oranges. and
Okay,
oranges.
makes sense. Thank you.
And we can certainly provide the as-built and the specifications of the original build in this room. That doesn't get us anything when it comes to what components are needed to complete this room per your desires.
You need a permanent mic.
Okay, so you are correct. I think, again, going back to what you initially said in your presentation, is that there's user requirements and there's a spec sheet, so there would be the technical objective and there also would be the user objective. I think that definition is one that we can make sure that we have, and then again, using the baseline of the specs and understand that everybody's going to get the same information, then you could respond accordingly.
Okay, wait a minute, come back. And I don't want to drag it, okay, look. If we are contemplating a new system,
I think what I'm saying is just take the existing specs of the existing system. This is what the gentleman is saying, your existing system, he wants to capitalize on. Did I understand you that correctly? You're taking the existing system and you're going to capitalize on it or provide the things that were given to you as far as the user requirements. Is that correct?
Can you describe further about capitalize on the current system?
I'm sorry, you're taking the current system and then you're going to be putting components together that are going to then enable us to do the things that I believe Nancy may have asked you to do. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Simple. Doesn't require a whole lot.
okay,
He was able to do it in a presentation. I'm just saying, let's get 2 more. Thank you.
fair enough, okay, go ahead. David, did you, you're fine, okay. So that's it. Okay, any more questions for Josh? Because we're going to move on, we just got a few items on status update. Thank you, Josh, appreciate it.
Thank you for having
Okay,
me.
So we need to move forward and both with, obviously, for the bids and the funding as well. Okay, so Nancy, do you want to say anything before we go? Okay, fair enough. Thank you, sir, and thank you again for your patience. Okay, so we're going to take up basically 3 items on our status update.
I think I only have 2.
Okay.
U of I Extension, new home. We have Charlotte and Alexia here, so I wasn't sure if you guys had additional information for us.
So per request, Charlotte Wilson, Extension Educator, Kootenai County. Per request of this board at your last week's meeting, I did meet with Alexia and Sean and Bill to discuss the clerk's request to have us moved by October 1st. What was identified is we may have a short-term problem that might be better suited with a less disruptive short-term solution, and also a long-term problem of where should extension truly be housed that will take longer to come up with an appropriate long-term solution for that. So, and then following up our conversation with Brooks, we had a conversation with Felios to just kind of give him some information, bring him up to speed on what we'd had, and I would invite you to come to the extension office as well, Commissioner Duncan, and we can give you the same tour and have the same discussion about what we have for space, what we need for space, and how we can work through the short-term challenge of, my perception is, the presidential election, and the space elections department needs to do that, and I think we can work within our being housed in the building at that time and work with elections. I have not been able to visit with the clerk or the elections department, in part because they were out due to COVID. So we are willing to work with them on space needs, to the point even that if we need to work remotely for a short term, up to a couple weeks possibly, so that they have more free use of the building so that they can socially distance their workers, we are willing to do that. And then look at a long-term solution where we can appropriately work with the fairgrounds and their long-range plan to identify a building on the fairgrounds that can house both administration teams and be able to gain funding to build that building. So that's what we came up with.
Lexia, did you want to jump in here at all? Okay. Yeah, so one of the considerations that we faced was, could we provide an interim solution for Charlotte, for U of I Extension at the fairgrounds, and that doesn't seem to be, how do I put it, plausible at this point. So the situation that arises is, how do we minimize the disruption, accommodate the clerk, and specifically elections, and especially with the presidential election coming up, and at the same time be able to house U of I Extension. And right now, the way that it looks is that we kind of need to keep, I think, U of I Extension where they are, taking the necessary hiatus, for lack of a better term, so if they need to vacate for 2 or even 3 weeks, so the election can be conducted, then we do that. Short of that, I don't know that there's any other solution in the short term. Long term, it's going to come down to probably construction. But I don't know. This is the way it looks to me right now. I don't know that there's any other potential solution. But if anybody has any ideas, that's fine. But I think anything else would probably prove rather costly. And I've not discussed this with the clerk yet. I haven't had a chance to do that. So, Leslie, do you have any thoughts?
No, I think just talking to the clerk and seeing if whatever solution that you're talking about is, will help them get through the season.
Right.
Yes.
And clearly, I'm sorry, go ahead, Charlotte.
I just want to express that we are willing to work within reasonable expectations to make accommodations for elections. We have always, in our office, especially when Carrie was managing the elections department, she would just simply come across and say, hey, can we do this? We've had years where we knew that our side of the building needed to be shut down while they were processing the elections and the ballots that evening. We graciously would say, okay, at this point in the day, everybody will vacate the building. We will stay out of the building until the next day when they have finished the elections process.
Yes, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So we are very game to work with the clerk and the elections department to do one of those, what can we do to all graciously play in the sandbox together and make the situation as it is work?
Sometimes in the past, though, I think there's been equipment that's been strewn around, for lack of a better term, and I think that needs to be addressed. I mean, clearly, and I certainly support this, the clerk wants to consolidate the operations to include county assistants, and I agree with it. Unfortunately, in the short term, to your point, Charlotte, I don't know that we have a short-term solution other than the one that you're describing, and that's part of the problem right now. So, Bill, any thoughts?
Only other than what I found from the people at the fair and the people at U of I. Everybody was willing to work together, and the place was just neat as a pin, which I understand it wasn't always, but it is now. So.
Okay. Anyone else? Thanks, Charla. One more item, was it the state of the county?
Yeah, the only thing I was going to ask is if you guys were interested in any kind of practice. I know the boards in the past have done that. We did not last year. I did not find a problem with the way things went last year, so I just was going to bring it up. You want to practice? You don't want to practice?
Bill doesn't.
Okay.
I've done it enough in my life, I'm okay.
Okay.
Are you okay?
Yep.
Okay. 3 okays. All right. Alexia, did you want to say something? I need you at the mic. I know. How about masks? No, never mind.
You really want me to go there?
No, I won't go there.
Okay. Just wanted to say, last week we had a firehouse update on there. It's not on here this week. Can we add it for next week?
Sure.
Do you have
We
some
can-
information?
We can address it. We can address it.
Isn't it on here?
It is. It absolutely is. Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
Joe Dolefield had called. He's out of town right now, but they have their lease agreement ready. Their board is going to review it on Wednesday. They would like to put it in front of you all if next week would work.
Sure.
I think that would be a good time to present their plan for the firehouse and the lease.
And clearly, we'll need our own legal review. Go ahead, Leslie.
Absolutely. I think this gives you guys the opportunity to see what's trying to happen, and then you can take it over to legal and we can go from there.
So if, let me just get the timeline a little bit straight. If they approve it Wednesday, Thursday it comes to us, then it's up to, not always, a 2-week review process, and then we can get it on the business meeting. Then we can,
I don't know about what's Thursday. What's happening Thursday?
well, I'm just
Oh,
saying,
you want
if
the
it's
lease in hand
Wednesday.
Thursday.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
whenever the lease comes in hand, legal will have to have time to
Yes.
review it.
Yeah.
So it won't come before a business meeting or anything like that for a little while.
I don't think that's what we're asking. I think
Okay.
we'd like to get in front of you in an update, just so we
Okay.
can kind of do a little presentation on here's what we're looking to do,
Sure.
so everybody's all on the same page.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Because we've had it on status update for weeks.
I know, long time.
And I know, and I keep saying,
6
well, when we
months.
get
Yeah.
the agreement, and so that's great.
Yeah.
Okay,
So we
good.
have the agreement. done, and
Great.
and we'll get it to you.
That's exciting.
Thank you,
Thank you.
appreciate it. Well, we've had public comment, but I guess we can do it one more time. None? 12:30, yeah, come right up. Name and address.
My name is Nina Beasley, and I'm a resident of Rathdrum, Kootenai County.
Okay.
And I was not able to hear a lot of the first part of the meeting. I guess that's why he's here, so that more people can hear, or all of the technical difficulties or whatever it may be. But
We'll need your address, by the way.
6107 West Majestic Avenue, Rathdrum, Idaho 83858.
Thank you.
So, is this public comment on anything regarding that was on the agenda?
Anything that we took up today.
Okay.
Anything on our agenda.
Well, regarding, again, I was not able to hear what you all had determined regarding Mrs. Nelson on the board.
Okay.
If you all are able to do anything about her, removal or not, we were not really able to hear that out in the.
Were you outside? Is
Yeah.
that, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, let me comment very quickly. Whenever we take up an issue of an individual, we never do that in an open meeting. We
Okay.
only address that in executive session because that's only fair to the individual, okay? So the comments that came forward today is that the public would rather have an elected official as a board member versus an appointed.
Yeah.
And Jay Nelson, as are the other folks, are appointed. And they're appointed for 5-year terms. Now, I also cited a code, and I think, do I have it in front of me? I can actually give it to you. How's that? And this is Idaho Code 30, here you go. Take a copy if you wish. You're privileged. The other folks didn't get a copy. But anyway, it's 39-411. And basically what that code indicates is that it takes, to appoint somebody to the board, Panhandle Health Board, or to remove them, takes the vote of the 3 commissioners times the 5 northern counties. So it's 15 people voting to install a director or to remove a director, okay? And there's no particular time frame. We don't necessarily have to wait until the expiration of their term. They do serve a 5-year term. In Jay Nelson's situation, that expires next June of 2021. And this is something that I failed to mention earlier, and I should have. Jay was initially appointed, I'm going to go back a couple of boards. So she was appointed under the J. Todd Dan Board, which is actually 2 boards ago, was reappointed, I believe, in 18 or it was before this board, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, she expires in June.
Okay. How about is his name McLandris?
Dr. McLandris, right.
Who does he represent? Like, is he, I don't believe he's Kootenai County. Is he from another district or?
That is where I haven't found the bylaws yet. My understanding, he is a Kootenai County representative, but whether this board appoints or whether the Kootenai Health Board appoints,
Yeah.
that I don't.
Because I figure we should just get rid of both of them at the same time.
And he's an at-large, and when you read the code, it does specify that 1 member must be a physician.
Yeah.
And he is.
Well, and I think one of the things that many of us feel, and I know we have a good more than half the population does not want masks. There are a population that do. But I think one thing that I really feel is informed consent. And every physician knows that a patient has informed consent. And essentially they're not just recommending, but they're mandating a medical device on the population, and we're not their patients. And so I really feel that, and they completely ignored evidence that shows not only, like, right now, they're really not needed. Number 2, they're not effective. And number 3, they're actually hazardous to our health. There's been many OSHA experts on personal protective equipment. There are many scientists, doctors, et cetera, that research the New England Journal of Medicine. I believe it's the Academy of Pediatrics and another journal with that have all said actually these masks are hazardous to our health because they can entrap viruses, bacteria, COVID, and it increases the viral load of
I'm going to have to
doing that.
limit
So
you. I had to limit
but
the other
anyways,
folks. Okay, go
so
ahead.
essentially that they're actually hazardous to our health. And that's a real concern because I have 5 kids at home and I'm not going to put one of these masks on my body or on my kids. And so I really feel that there are multiple reasons here that this is such a huge issue and that it needs to be taken care of. And I really appreciate everybody here that has worked so hard to try to take this seriously, that the decisions that were made do violate our informed consent, because I can go to a doctor and he can give me a recommendation and I can go get 2 second opinions, third opinions. They make recommendations, but we make the decisions.
The ultimate decision.
So I appreciate everything that you all have done and for, again, taking additional public comment. And I never got a chance to do that, and I appreciate you letting
very
me have the
welcome.
opportunity.
Thank
So thank you.
Okay, then, so if there's no further comments, I have 12:42, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
I said